Yeah, good morning, good morning.
Impact
Good
Universe.
morning, man.
It's Jersey J.
How's everything
The one
going?
and only.
Rocking out early.
T-Bone in the building.
Early
And we
morning
also
hustle.
got
I just got
special guests today. One of the greatest minds that ever hit this planet. We got Rick from Brooklyn. What's going on, bro?
What's up, guys? Pleasure to be here.
Man,
Pleasure to be here.
you know, as our second episode, it's going to be great because we got a lot of controversial topics, but we also have, it's voting season. It's voting time.
Voting day, bro. Today's the day.
This is the day. The kids not in school, they're at the house while the parents got to have serious conversations on who they're voting for. And, honestly, in the land of the free, so they say, I believe that, we have the power to pick who we need to. But you obviously know this democracy is some scrutiny that's going on. But, we could go from state to state and let's get it kicking. So who you picking out there all the way up at the top of the hemisphere before you get to Canada, man? Who's in your city? Who's in your state? Buffalo, in this New York State. What's going on with them, man? How do you feel about your candidates?
Kathy Holcomb, this is her first actual race because she took over for Cuomo, because Cuomo got a little handsy, likes to touch his security detail. So Kathy Holcomb never really ran a race before. So this is her first time. I'm not believing the polls. I believe these Republicans are flooding the polls, saying they're closer just so they can argue that the election was stolen. It's how they raise money, and they can't win no more regular, so they got to cheat.
Listen, man, I think that honestly, the way the rules and the regulations go during voting season, it gets real touchy-feely around here when it comes to the voting. And shout out to all my college students from Rutgers University that will be voting for the very first time. 18-year-olds, you got to go out and vote. Very important. You have to know who your local government is, who your state and your councilman and all of the things that's going on around here, because it's very important to know who's in your community and activating and building your community. So we're going to stay with New York. First of all, we already know that cannabis is coming to New York State. Big rules and regulations. Shout out to Eric Adams. He's really focused on the black vote when it comes to this thing. And it's a very, very touchy situation because New Jersey, it's not that many black dispensaries here, as we already know. We're still working our way through it. So what do you think about
that? Well, when Cuomo was governor, I had the luxury of meeting the most powerful black woman in the state of New York, Senate Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes. She actually wrote the cannabis laws starting 7 years ago. This has been a 7-year project and journey for her. And when we spoke, one of the things we really tried to do was not allow big business to get into New York before New Yorkers got theirs. It was very important. You see, Cookies had that launch last week, but they didn't sell any weed. They only sold merchandise because a late minute rule came in play that if you have out of state business, you can't sell in New York. Not now. They're not letting out of state companies come in. So Cookies jumped the gun, got the place, thought they were getting the spot, and the late minute rule changed them. So they just have to sell merch. So I'm really proud of what New York's doing, trying to make New Yorkers rich. We have a chance to make a lot of people millionaires. So a lot of little farmers will do just as well as these big farmers coming in.
So I was in the building at the Gracie Mansion. So shout out to CJ Wallace, Biggie Smalls' son. It was a lot of amazing people in there. We met Dwayne, which is one of the amazing individuals that's behind the scene working it for the forefront of Black and brown people. And, I just want to highlight on Eric Adams. He's talked about the community, right? The community engagement opportunity for not only entrepreneurs, but just cleaning up the whole epidemic of drugs, war on crime, all the issues of police violence and all the things that was happening in the community. This is a big opportunity. How do you feel about that when it comes to the cannabis development and all of the grand enterprises that's about to happen with the
So I know the details. The details are important. So in the state of New York, there's going to be a 22% tax on cannabis sales, which is high. But 40% of the 22% goes directly to communities that were hit by the drug war. There's neighborhoods that are hurt by this that have to be fixed. If we're going to be a green society, if we're going to be a vibrant community, we have to take care of our own. So as these millions and billions of dollars are pouring into New York for cannabis, we cannot let the city down. She made very clear that 20% of all taxes are going to go to the hardest hitting communities. So I suspect in the next 5 to 10 years, we should see the real benefit of cannabis. They're saying that it's going to be over $1 billion. Here's my favorite stat, because I talk to weed guys all day. The
Right.
number one consumed city in the world for cannabis is New York. Imagine when it's legal. Like now it's really going to be bigger.
So politically, how does that affect like on voting? This is a major important thing when it comes down to voting. How does that concept work when it comes to all the policies that's already implemented for people to go ahead and be licensed for people to consume?
So the licensing part, it takes a minute because they're trying to do it correctly. The first 150 dispensaries will be given to people who have felony charges on their record. Weed is legal in 26 states right now. We can't hold people federally legal for something that's already been changed. So New York took a stand and said, okay, the first 150 dispensaries are going to be for people who were affected by this. I don't know if they're going to get them open this year.
Right.
Lee Zeldin closing in on Kathy on the polls has everybody worried. I mean, Javon, you were there, right? In the conversation,
Yeah.
everybody's worried.
Right.
But I truly believe that she wins by 10 points. If she wins by 10 points, everything's back to normal. Stay the course. You know the project that I'm working on up here. We're trying to acquire 150 acres and make our own sustainable system. We're putting $10 million greenhouses to grow cannabis from any environment in the world. Check this out. This is cool. So we're talking to Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny, the biggest artist in the world currently, independent, making money, so much money that Drake is shouting him out now. I want that Bad Bunny money, right? The man makes 90% of his money. That's amazing when it comes to music, but he parlayed it right into cannabis. They
Right.
have 3 dispensaries there. They're opening 6 more, so they want to have 9 in Puerto Rico. But the thing is, everybody wants to control how they grow cannabis. So if you can't transport it from Puerto Rico to New York, so your strain has to be grown in New York. But their strain is beneficial in Puerto Rico, the heat, the sun. So how do we get the exact product in New York under different climate, under different circumstances? So our engineers, our techs, they're the best in the world. So they made these IoT sensors. This is the coolest thing ever, man. They made these little IoT sensors that we can put in their field in Puerto Rico, and whatever the temperature is, whatever the humidity is, even if it rains, it'll rain in the greenhouse. Everything identical to the geographical surrounding where they're growing it now in Puerto Rico. So there will be no loss. If the humidity is a number in Puerto Rico, it's the exact number in that greenhouse.
Man,
If it what
we gotta check that out when that thing is built all the way up, so we can take a walkthrough, so we can video this thing, because that sounds amazing. The technology that's even the process to be able to make sure the climate is the same climate when you're in Puerto Rico, knowing that it's a whole different geography change from the state of New York. I would like to see that. That part is amazing. Now, this is the very important part when it comes to this whole thing when it comes to voting. I don't know what's going on with New Jersey, but we have a big issue with getting in for not just licensing, but just being able to handle the application, because we already know that the money is you can't transit the transactions. You have everything has to be legit.
Yep.
How does that process affect the Black and brown community, knowing that we don't have the human capital and all of the funding to actually get in the business in the first place, knowing now it's legal?
Okay, so I'm going to give you an answer that I don't know if it's definitely politically correct, but I'm on the front line. I'm watching, right?
Right.
So I am a member. I was like the fourth member of the New York Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, where Dwayne and Melvin hold court. And one of the things I spoke about was, okay, so we get these people licenses, but it takes $1 million to get this thing going. How are we supposed to do it? And then the regulation comes down and says you need a weed charge to qualify. Okay, so I have a friend that I'm working with right now. He has a weed charge. But then the next qualification was you have to run your own business for at least 3 years and show profitability. Well, we were in a pandemic 3 years ago.
Exactly.
Like, so how do you, it's really not helping. Shout out to Chris Webber, Fab Five, him and his crew came in with $300 million, and they're going to lend these 150 people the money they need to start their dispensaries. Um, it's a good start. It's a
That's a
good
great start.
start, but it's not the answer, because all you're doing is telling people you can't get in because you didn't have a felony charge, or you had a corporation that f- fell apart during the pandemic. Those are two tough things to overturn. Um, I don't know how they switch gears or how they move, but I can honestly say everything they're doing is with integrity for the little man. Like, I've had conversations with people where I said, okay, I can bring this in. They were like, nope, we want New Yorkers only. And I respect that. The plan is to make this a New York thing. Don't let anybody outside. The outside forces are trying to get in here. So with Chris Webber putting up the 300 million, I think it was 350 million, him and his partners, that's just the first step. Plenty more companies are going to come in to try to figure out how to finance New York. I really just hope they they allow the little guy to prosper. One of the things that I'm trying to let everybody know is that credit card processing exists. There's no reason to hold all this cash inside these dispensaries. Make yourself a target for the stick up boys. We all watch The Wire. The cheese stands alone.
Right. So, so we have more than 100 million Americans voting, right, in the congressional election, right? So just think about this. According to AP News, right, 85% of the whole population is angry about the U.S. voting system. And what do you think about those opinions right now? Is it a farce? Is this thing rigged? Or because personally, as the Gen Z situation is going on, they think that this thing is already rigged. People don't trust the American government as we speak.
They're not wrong. So one thing that I don't, you know me, Jay, I read a lot.
Right.
I go down the rabbit hole. One thing I do not want to look at, because I know it's going to ruin my mood, I do not want to look at gerrymandering. These these motherfuckers cut up things to where, like in the last election, they tried to remove Detroit votes out of the county. All the places in Michigan were counted except Detroit. I wonder why they chose Detroit.
Right.
Right? Like, I wonder why 90% of it's black and you're trying to throw the vote out. That's a problem. White America, old white America in particular, terrified. They don't recognize this
Oh,
place.
absolutely afraid. What do you
They're
think?
terrified.
What you think about it, man? Because right now voting is in our community. We don't trust the vote at all.
Let me just say one thing that I want you two guys to stick with. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't try to steal it.
Exactly. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
That's all we have to remember as a society. They're trying to stop us because our votes matter.
Right.
Stack the deck, blue all the way down. I don't care if we're running a head of lettuce. I'm voting for that head of lettuce if it's a Democrat.
Listen, I'm into freedom of speech and democracy. I feel that some of the powers that be are trying to control the vote so we can go back into old land slavery and focus.
Dude, they're trying to end interracial marriage. But Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, married a white lady who tried to overthrow the government, and now they're trying to end. Yo, none of it makes sense. I feel like everybody paints themselves into a corner, and then they don't know what to do.
Right. Look, this gentleman said the Republican Mike Bell's 45 years old from South Carolina. He says the evangelical Christians who consider themselves conservative Republican, the Bible is real, right? The influence is costing
the Bible might be real, but it was written by a man.
But people take the wrong influence when it comes down to the Bible situation. Just because you hear the Bible that a man wrote it, and just because whoever religion it was, it doesn't matter what religion it was. Just the fact that just because a man wrote it doesn't mean it's always true. I mean, like, y'all figured that, just because somebody writes something in a book, it's always true. You never know, that could be a lie. I mean, it's certain things that you take out of that book.
It definitely is a lie. Do you think a man lived in a whale's belly for 6 months? Come on now.
Hey, yo, listen. I'm telling you, look, the next segment is going to be pretty good, man, because I watched a little bit of football last night, man. Lamar Jackson is an amazing guy, man. I think.
Oh, God, he's so amazing to watch, bro. He's amazing.
This like the evolution of football, like, I really like where it's going. I really feel like, most people that are paying attention, the sport has really evolved into a really fun game to watch. The entertainment part of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm so focused on football that I don't even care about basketball right now.
I know, it's crazy. Your change has been nuts.
What's going on,
Even T's laughing.
Listen, first of all, we sat there and we had a headache just listening to all of the commentary about the Kyrie Irving badness. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. Listen, I'm a pro-black gentleman. Listen, all international perspective, island boy creative and all these things. But I'm telling you, why is basketball becoming political? Don't ask these guys anything when it comes to political.
No, I'll tell you why it's political. Because they're black men who are millionaires, right? And the white man wants to put them out there and say, see, that's why we shouldn't give him so much money. But let me just touch this for a second with Kyrie. Excuse me for saying this, but he needs to shut up because it's America. You're allowed to have free speech, but you're not allowed to throw gasoline on the fire.
Listen,
like, you know how I feel about this Kanye thing, right? You know how I feel about this Kanye thing.
Listen,
and I think Kyrie just walked into it. Like, why you want to walk into that? I have no sympathy for a man who has $400 million and compares himself to George Floyd. Bounce, my guy, bounce.
I can't believe he did that.
Go ahead, add it on
I'm
there.
sorry, I can't believe he actually did that because I feel like a man that actually have. Say, for example, okay, you and Jay-Z kind of fit on the same status, but y'all beef. Y'all don't get along. Okay, we get it. But now you bring yourself down to George Floyd. That's a little outrageous when you doing something like that. I feel like, listen, you at one place and you trying to level yourself down to make it sound like that. Well, you got to be on the same level with some. Why does it matter? Why does it matter what the people think?
Look, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
No, you're playing who you believed. Stop playing.
Wait, this is the fun guy because look, this is the whole show where this is where we get a chance that all walks of life and races, we get to hear the ideas and the concepts, right? So now just think about this, right? If the foot was on the other shoe.
Yeah, the other way. Shoe on the foot.
Shoe on the foot, right? Shoes on the other foot, and hypothetically, white guys can dunk a basketball, hoop, slam, do all those things, and it was the reverse. Would this be such an issue when it comes down to another community? And would this be such a concept where the media is asking for an apology for, first of all, any atrocities when it comes to any people is a really terrible thing. I'm not condoning any type of behavior, but are you entitled to your opinion? That's the question.
Now, if it was 3 years ago, we wouldn't have an exact example, but we do. Dumb Aaron Rodgers. He's our example.
boy, all these, oh boy, these
Right? Look, both your faces prove my situation, right? You're going to sit out there and say, well, the vaccines don't keep you from getting COVID.
who the hell told you that?
Who told you that?
Yo, my guy, put on a leather helmet. Helmets don't stop CTE, right? Put on a leather helmet if you think there's no value in the helmet. Like,
Oh,
it's just, it's corny, but he's a good example, and he deserves everything he gets losing to the Detroit Lions. He
that's
deserves
terrible.
everything he gets.
He's getting spanked this year.
Son,
I just think that, honestly, now that you proved that point that he absolutely lied during the season, that he did not have the prerequisites to do what he even be playing in the first place. Now that you bring this to the forefront and you put it face to face, it does makes a lot of sense. Even though on this perspective of this, we know that the media will destroy your character. It doesn't matter who it is. You hold the position and you suffer the consequences for that, and you're willing to take the consequences for that. Are you not entitled to your opinion?
You are 100% entitled to your opinion. That's the beauty of America. You're allowed to have your opinion. Like, I don't even care that Kyrie thinks the earth is flat. That's just bad business, right? Like, okay, you think that, like, I don't even care about that. It's just, I believe that he doesn't have the right to speak on this topic because he can dribble a basketball. I'm not letting Kyrie perform open heart surgery on me. I ain't letting Aaron Rodgers you give me a medical diagnosis. There's just stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane. Now, I want to make a point that I've been struggling with, and I had this conversation with you offline. And everyone in my world is black, and that's by design because I chose to help young black men be better businessmen.
Right.
So, in the fight for equality, we all have to stare at equality. So, I'll give you a quick story. So me and my wife walking through the neighborhood. I live in MAGA land, right? So I'm walking the dog. We meet this nice couple, and they're always friendly. We're walking the same time. First question I said to my wife, "You think they're MAGA?" She says, "Yep, probably." Right? So we're walking, like days go by. Then something happens, and they were like, "Oh, I, I think we're done with Trump, and we got to move on to Ron DeSantis."
Okay.
I said, "See, this is the problem."
But he's going to run. He's going to run 2024.
I don't want to make it about the individual. I want to make this specific comment about race, and I might get trashed in the comment section. But
yeah, we're gonna listen. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, they're all going to see this. Trust me.
They gotta hear it though.
We have to police our own. As a white man, I call out white men. But what I have a problem with is the defenders of Kyrie, the defenders of Kanye. Because if you're not going to check him, then you don't care about equality.
Why do you say that?
Let's use an example.
Right.
Angelina Jolie's father, whatever the actor's name is. Why did you put your hands in your face?
Because you know what? I'm not a Twitter guy, but I've been looking at the tweets, and I'm really like, man,
Now, here's a man who I loved what he did in Ray Donovan. He was Mickey Donovan. He was great. I loved him. I put equality over everything. I want everybody to be equal. It's not about you should get this because you shouldn't. And I feel with Kanye, everybody defends Kanye because he's such a cultural icon, but it doesn't make him right. We can't let his mistakes and falls go unchecked because it leads to this. He called out Jay-Z and Beyonce years ago. Jay-Z trying to kill me. Jay-Z trying to kill me. If I die, it's because of Hova. He did this 4 years ago in a concert. Nobody checked him. And here we are.
I do want to point this out, that the malicious behavior of the media, of the actual, listen, black men get killed every day.
Every day.
They get destroyed through the media.
White men every single day. Every single day.
All I want to point out is that is heavily covered versus the disregarding of point out here a Brett Favre.
But Brett Favre, I'll fight him one-on-one if you guys want to set that up.
I'm just simply saying there are things out here that we are pointing a finger to even though that these two gentlemen that are, are socially conscious people, but they are making a lot of behavioral issues. They have a lot of behavioral issues going on when it comes to their sports or their games and the fields that they're in entertainment. And I think that back in the day, we had those radical, individuals that were in the field to push the culture forward. Is this not what America's about? That's what I feel about this whole entire topic. Just that my perception, because the young people love Uncle Drew. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's where we blur the line, right? We take entertainment and we make it like real, and it's not.
So we're in that social concept where you got kids love this guy because of what he does, active in the community. Not to mention, I'm in New Jersey and he's from New Jersey, and he is in his community helping.
And you hang out with his dad.
No, but listen, listen to what I'm saying.
T-Bone got it.
He helps every organization he can, and he doesn't give his perspective. He puts in the work. And I just look at it from that perception that the media, once they got, and not to mention, he could have kept this one quiet.
Yeah, we all got a friend who we love who shouldn't be talking in front of a camera.
I don't think
we all got that guy.
That's why all NBA players, all me. Listen, as an ex-athlete or as somebody that's in media, every athlete, pay attention to this. PRs, marketing moguls. If you have an athlete and he's not media trained, pay for it, because these are the things that can happen when you sit him down in front of a whole bunch of journalists that have done the research. So obviously you can tell of the two consistencies of someone badgering from someone who can't be honest about, even though I seen the documentary, I didn't do my due diligence to pay attention to and follow the breadcrumbs to see if this was a valid information. You source information, you start to break things down, and
nothing is what we were taught. Nothing.
Right. We know this. He says this in his last stand. They had a press conference after the game. All of the things that we thought was real, we come to find out when I do my research, it's not the right thing. So I think that the American public is seeing this. TikTokers, Instagrammers, Twitter fingers, you already know, Facebookers, all of the social media world knows that now we're researching the information, and if this is such a valid topic, who is being taken advantage of? Kyrie, or is Jeff Bezos? Not to mention, he boosted up the price on that documentary. If you're in the books, if you're not paying attention,
you can't trust Amazon with anything, including the Washington Redskins / Commanders, because him and Jay-Z are buying the team.
Man, on a lighter note, man.
Hold on, I just want to say something, because you brought up Brett Favre. Brett Favre was caught ciphering money out of the welfare fund from Mississippi. Goes to the poorest 1% of people in the state of Mississippi. Mississippi is in the last place in everything, including child mortality rate, and I believe it was schooling. Like, just terrible for kids. And this guy's taking money so his daughter can have a volleyball stadium, right? That's bad. But what you didn't, and this is what I say about, you got to point out both sides. Right. Kanye West did Sunday service, charged $100 for a t-shirt, but the choir had to sue him to get paid.
Listen, I didn't say that this is a certain clause.
But my point is, you went right to Brett Favre, and you didn't call out the Kanye mishap. This is what I say when we have to call out our own. If I sit there and pick on Kyrie and I pick on Kanye, I'm doing what every other white man does. Right?
There is a morality clause here, though. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
There is a morality clause where we have to look at the two inconsistencies in the coverage of both.
Absolutely.
Entertainers that are in football, basketball, and sports. But for some reason, I shout out to Tom Brady, but I feel for my man right now because that's one of my guys. They should be covering my boy the way he's doing that. I mean, they cover what's hot and what's trendy, and I think that certain things shouldn't be in the is quote unquote, as me being a new journalist in this realm, learning the craft. they pick what's the hottest that's out there. So if they're gonna cover these topics and it's really clickbaity and it's starting to get ridiculous at some point in time, really truthfully, during COVID, everybody was at home. So now they're really watching their cell phones. They're looking at everything that's out there, and all of the markets are taking advantage of it. And I think this is a shame that people get a chance to see what's really happening in real time. You know, this person is really a human being at the end of the day.
And that's what we all have to remember. They're all human beings. I know Kyrie, out of every name we named, is the sweetest individual. I know that. I met him. I know he's the sweetest, nicest person out of everyone we named.
Right.
I would try to help. When I recommend, like, don't let him talk, that's out of love. I don't want to see him fumble no more.
Right.
On the other hand, Kanye, I don't want to see you no more. Because
and you know, the thing is that, you know, Stephen Jackson condemned the behavior. He said, look, you're just upset that you're lost your wife, and you know the things that you need to do. You need to go reboot. You know, saddle up, and you know, everybody needs to understand that some of these things that we're watching is revolutionary.
Facts. That's true.
yes.
I think that honestly, everybody coming out has a little bit of COVID on the brain after effects, and trying to figure out where they're going next. You know, so I mean, due to the technology, everything that's going on, that's when it comes to our financial sector and how people are reacting to their finances being affected. And I think it's really a total shame that everybody is going for broke. You know, it's like everybody put the gas pedal on the brake. They didn't brake. They just put the gas on the pedal and said, "Hey, I'm gonna go run as hard as I possibly could to see if I can make it in any way possible." And I've just seen this across the board.
And as a middle-aged man, right? I grew up in all the hustles. I hustled everything. I shoveled snow. Shit, I sold stocks as a stockbroker. I hustled every way. I am so proud of you guys. And Javon, you know how we met. Like I said to my wife, yo, give me his number. I need to speak to him, because I'm proud of the hustlers finding a new way. You found a new way. You're doing it your way. Stay the course. Everything's going to come around to you. See, that right now we're on StreamYard. This shit didn't even exist before the pandemic. It didn't even exist.
Listen, look, we would love to have a sponsorship from StreamYard. Trust me when I tell you, that's why we're doing this here. You know, I mean, listen, and not to mention, you know, it's getting cold outside. We got, you know, book bags. We did book bags this year. Now we got the coat drive that's coming up, you know, just before the holiday season. It's going to be cold outside. It's getting a little bitter out there. Just a lot.
Yo, I saw something I want to give you a heads up on.
What's up, man?
Have you seen these heated vests where you press a button and the vest heats up? I'll send you the link offline. We got to buy these for the homeless.
The Covenant House is coming up. Like, they have the sleep outside that's coming up. So I'm just giving you guys this, right? They got the sleep outside. It's down the street from where the office is. So we're going to be doing all night, helping out the homeless. And we're going to bring our, you know, our hoodies and our gear. And then we're going to get our hats and gloves ready to go so we can help the homeless. And these are for the young. These are young, you know, LGBT, homeless individuals, young women, men. They're all going to be out there supporting this situation. So what do you think about that?
It's sad because, you know, I was thinking about that when you were saying that, and I was also thinking about that, like Jay, Rick, this shit is serious because, you know, it's crazy. Like, a lot of people speak on this. Like, you don't even see young kids even helping homeless no more. You don't even see kids that's around my age or at least a little older, a little younger, even trying to give homeless something. Oh, nah, you're going to come past. Oh, I ain't got nothing.
It's the OG's fault.
But it's not always y'all, big bro. You can't say it's always y'all. And then
no, man, I can't blame it on y'all.
Y'all are the, how you said, the cause of the situation. It's not y'all. It's what it is. It's also, is that, like, say, for example, anything getting the right teaching, some kids is growing up nowadays, they're growing up to be ignorant. They really are. Right. It's like, a lot of these kids dropping out of school. They don't want to be in school. They want to hang up in games. They want to be out here shooting people at a young age. And see how it is to have a body on their age. The next thing you know, they're going to jail for 20, 30 years.
Right. Man. So look,
I think we need to normalize getting old.
Right. So that's another thing, right? So we segueing from politics to cannabis to homelessness to sports, and we headed right into directly where I am wanted to be in the first place. The effect of rap culture. Do you feel like the rap culture that right now and all of the murders that has been happening, rest in peace, Takeoff.
Rest in peace, man.
You know, all of the senseless murders of all of these people.
All of it comes from one place, right? What happened to squaring up and fighting a fair one?
But nobody knows how to fight anymore, though. They don't know how to catch the fair one.
I still do.
Yo, we
you
don't know much about Takeoff, the situation, but he might not even have saw it coming. I don't know if he got shot in the back of the head or the back. Like, he might not even have saw what happened coming. I don't think he was the target of it. Like,
they wanted to give a blood sacrifice. That's what it was. It's like,
no, listen, I'm not going to go there. No.
What we do is, but I ain't going to necessarily say that it is that. But I also feel like in a way that it's got to be something.
It got to be something.
Because it's like, think about the same situation even with the P&B situation. How the hell do you even know exactly that he's sitting down in Waffle's house and eating food?
Because his wife put it out, or his girl.
Right. I just think it's just total.
But even if she put it out, like, how did that 17-year-old and his father actually get that location to be there so fastly? To be there 2.5.
Right. I mean, look, there's a lot of scrutiny that's out there. We don't know all of the details, but I just think this, right? Somebody should be responsible when it comes to the management, how they handle. Like I said, you have an amazing artist, and you already told me how to build this. Shout out to Flawless, Rhode Island. You know, power to the people. That's one of my Latino brothers from another mother. This is my brother. So look, as someone that is handling business and supporting the artist and a creative, right, and also a leader, they try to make sure where he goes is strictly business.
Okay.
All of these rappers that's out here, when it comes to grime and in other countries, what's the name of the brand that they killing now? Because I don't even know that.
It's like that. It's like Def Jam.
Yeah, I mean, just all of the brands.
It's like
they love to push this music on the mainstream market.
I be noticing that too.
You know what I'm saying? I just think that it's too much violence to be pushed. It's so much amazing music out here. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I've never listened to so much music. When COVID happened, I just had to get into another world, right? And I was like, look, I got to start listening to
skateboarding cholos made me discover Fleetwood Mac.
Music, man.
Some people underrated.
And a lot of underrated artists that are not getting out there that deserve an opportunity. And I think that my platform and as a media company that talk about new artists every day, and we talk about things that's going on in the community that are positive, I think these guys should be highlighted, even though, and why is the followers so important to the analytics of someone else's business that is positive? If you have a positive artist that's out there and he's not getting too much traction, and now you got somebody that has a negative ideology of where the music is being played in the mainstream, why is this so popular to the American culture or just internationally? You just hear this everywhere. They're following the trend. And then I think the record labels are making killing off of this.
But they've been making a killing off of this, literally and figuratively. Right? Like they've been doing that. I think, I'm going to give a shout out to somebody who caught a lot of slack for being a gatekeeper, but as someone who represents the culture, and we need gatekeepers. But shout out to Ebro. Thinking about Ebro for a second.
Boy, man. Shout out to Ebro, man.
Ebro refused to let Tech 9 in. Refused. Everybody gave not Tech 9, excuse me, Tekashi 6ix9ine. He refused to give Tekashi any burn. He's like, no way, he doesn't deserve it. He got a lot of slack from that. A lot of people said you're hating on the new music, you're hating on the kid. But Ebro made a tough decision and said, nah, we're not supporting this. And he was right. And we need more gatekeepers.
He was absolutely correct. And I think that our kids are now so ignorant that they are not paying attention to where.
Let's not insult the younger generation. They're not ignorant. They're just not. We're not showing them the right way.
So
that's it.
let me get this clear. Let's get it clear, right? I'm not bashing Gen Z. I'm saying ignorant of not knowing, right? So I've been there. Don't get me wrong, because when you don't know, you just going with, you got the horse blinders on. You know what's happening, but everybody else can see you going downhill. Or they luckily I got people that would pull me over to the side and say, "Hey, look, this is the direction you need to go in." You know what I'm saying? Without those people, and I shout out to I got some amazing mentors that say, "Hey, listen, I don't think you should be going down this road because this is going to head you in a bad situation. So maybe you need to focus on this." You get what I'm saying? So now community engagement, mentoring, working on different projects that's outside of my realm where I'm uncomfortable, but it's making me grow in a different way. You get what I'm saying? So you got to open up your eyes. And
It has to be painful. Jay, I said to you, and we spoke about this about a month ago, the hardest discussion me and you ever had is when I told you you need to fall back. You didn't want to hear that, but it was right. You need to fall back, let other people be the stars, and you can hide the stars. And all that did was make you better. I'm really impressed on how you're handling this right now. Every time I go off book, you bring me back. You're doing great right now. It's the growth. We have to learn. We got to be not afraid to make mistakes. We got to be not afraid to stand up for something, right? Because if you ain't standing up for something, you're just getting rolled over by everything. So
Right.
like, it's tough. The toughest thing is growth, right? Growing, accepting your flaws and fixing it. You've come such a long way since me and you met 5 years ago or whatever it was, 6 years ago. You've come a long way. I'm really proud of you. You're up there with my success stories. Like, you really turned it around. I give you props, and you try every single day. And that's all that counts, trying. Because
Right.
if you don't try, you gave up.
Just spoke about that in the car too. Just
Right.
spoke about that.
So what do you think about that? Because I think that young people need a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, not just 2-3 strikes you're out. I think that it took me a couple of times, man, to really refocus and I had to pivot so many times because I didn't know where we were going as a young person. Sometimes you look at your scope of work, you look at your body of work, and you just think it's enough, right, to be able to be syndicated. You're like, all right, cool. Maybe they just need to see our point of view because the brand is not strong enough. That's all you hear. And then you have a little ego because you feel like, hey, I've done what I was supposed to do. I have the logo. I have the brand. I'm running a business. And now I'm trying to get a little bit of money. But now I got the people following. I got the young people following. But still, indeed, I had a couple of things that was missing that I needed in development. In time, you understand you can't rush greatness. You always tell me that. So developing, kids need the full development. And then not to mention conflict resolution, man.
Yep.
A lot of us listen, to be able to hear someone and be able to take that criticism and be able to just, shout out to my son. They just lost in the semifinals before the championship game. Shout out to
the
South.
best thing that happened to them. We spoke about this. They have to learn that pain so they never feel it again.
Right. And shout out to Gen Z for this one right here, right? Because during COVID, they learned how to pivot and they've learned how to be entrepreneurs in areas that we weren't, really savvy in. And I think, a lot of young people right now are showing me how to move around in the social world, that making me a stronger businessman in that area in the first place. Because I didn't know this much on social in my life.
Here's my tip to the Gen Z kids who are rocking TikTok. Figure out how to get off TikTok. It is owned by China. They're taking your content. Technology's getting better. They're going to have your face shucking and jiving on AI. Like, get off TikTok. I know that's where everyone congregates. I know it is, but figure out how to pull your followers off of TikTok. That's one of the things we spoke about with Flawless, right? We said, all right, we got 700,000 followers on Instagram, but how do we get the followers? Because right now they're just Instagram's followers. They're not ours. They're not our people. So you got to figure out how to pull people off these socials and follow you somewhere else. And we called it, let's see how many people we can make jump. And what I mean by that, we got 700,000 followers. Okay, guys, we're going to go do a project. We're going to stream on this platform. 700,000 people aren't following us. But if we get 7,000, we take 1% of that. We know we got 7,000 hardcore fans. Forget about that big number. The big number is irrelevant. That's only good for Instagram. It ain't good for you. You need to figure out who your real fans are, grab those fans and bring them with you to other places. Because the money guys, the people who want to see what your flex is, it's not your Instagram followers. It's what you're doing right now. This live stream, you could take your followers from Instagram, move them over to wherever they're watching this. Those are true fans.
Right.
Everybody else is just fly by night. You ain't even on their top 10 list. So
That's so true.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing about it is like, right? And I find this as a businessman that is a new like entrepreneur, second generation entrepreneur, that is so hard to get people to actually follow the sense, right? And being a businessman is totally being different than being a hustler, right? So people know you around the way, and they want to nickel and dime you. And then I figure like we're segueing into business because B Club and Flawless is on our website, and I want to new company.
that was like, God, man, I was praying, and I'm not really a religious guy, but I was praying. Everything in my world's been clicking, and I was really worried about this music with Flawless. And just to segue for a second, you spoke about that night out in Jersey that's coming up.
Right.
The last time I was in Jersey was in Newark. I spent the night out, me and Eric B, doing something in Newark, and the plan was to get Eric B and Rakim back together. They haven't spoken in 18 years. I drove 9 hours to sit these two guys down, squash the beef. What's the problem? The culture needs you.
So
and
look,
it took something of somebody else's pain. The city of Newark's hurting, right? It's hurting.
Right. I mean,
Rakim and Eric B came together because Newark was hurting.
And you know what's funny? Like
that's beautiful.
Shout out to Ross Baraka. He's doing
Ross Baraka was involved in all of that.
He has an amazing. He's putting on an amazing job right now, and I think that the city of Newark is really changing. The demographic is changing. Listen. Don't get me wrong. The Black and brown people are thriving here. The businesses are thriving here. The school system is looking amazing right now. They're doing a lot of great work here.
Shout out to Joe Biden with all that money he dumped on these states.
Look, you proof is in the pudding where he put them in, and look, infrastructure is very important. Economic development is very important. Gen Z, listen, there's a company that I'm gonna shout out right now, Brown Mill Company. They're averaging $26,000 a month. So I don't know what people are telling people, that if a clothing line that has a storefront can make that type of money, it's out here. So Gen Z, pay attention. You can be successful anywhere.
Here's something I learned in my late 20s. I became a stockbroker, and the hardest part about being a stockbroker is picking up the phone, right? Dialing a number to someone and this is before the internet, right? So they never seen your face. They don't know who you are. I'm calling them cold call, blind pitch, asking them for money to believe in investing in my idea. It's the craziest thing you ever thought about. Like, hey, send me 100,000. I don't know who you are, but like that's how the stock world worked. But you get so many no's, so many stop calling me's that it hurts. It becomes painful. And now I eat it. It's not pain anymore. I love it. So once society or an individual can figure out the pleasure and pain aspect and get away from something that mentally you're like, I don't want to do that, it hurts too much, to, oh my God, I want to do that because it feels so good to eat through that.
Right. So what's cool about this part, right? And I think that is I got a younger gentleman that's we're working on another version of a UPS, right? He has dreams of having his own delivery service, right? And I'm like, we could do this. I think that it's very important to have different forms of delivery, right? If UPS and FedEx and all these other companies felt like it was exciting. So what are some of the things that have troubled you as a young person to, that counteract the COVID and the issues on going back to the workplace?
with just the fact that it's being around other people, right?
Tell me about how hard it was, how tough it is, just as a young person, to kind of like pivot and go into your own thing, like we doing right now. Like we created this thing because, first of all, finishing college is difficult, right?
Exactly.
Finishing, this is the reason why we started this thing. Finishing college is difficult. Finances that, shout out to Joe Biden for even trying to cancel student debt and all of these things that are happening right now.
And then Republicans sue to block it.
It's revolutionary things that's happening. And then, I think that, the education is the key for your growth. Like, how do you feel like as a person?
I feel like it's more difficult than ever. I feel like because of being in the pandemic for so long, I feel like it kind of could put too much strain onto your mind and like how much things that you believe in, like things that you're going to do. So I feel like, say for example, if you was positive your whole life, and then you had this pandemic come around, and the next thing you know, this pandemic changed the way you think. And you as a person, you might feel like that, okay, I've been positive so long, and this pandemic came around, and then you started to change the way that you think because you started to feel like, well, I had so much positivity for so long, I kept working to make this happen. I was making it happen, and then the pandemic came down, and damn, it's not working out no more. So now you start to think of, am I going to ever be the person that I actually really want to be? Do you feel that way? If you listen
now, Rick, do you see that? Listen, the young people do feel this way, although they are very successful on their own, and that's why so many people gear towards social media to build that self-esteem that they, that separation of all of the friends and family that they weren't around for the last couple of years. Now they have something that they, they're going to make them feel better, and that dopamine is getting to their heads at this time. And I wish, I'm going into this next topic, which is mental health and healthcare. These two things go hand in hand, which is very important. Why don't Americans have the right healthcare, right? Even though Obama had his Obamacare and all these things. Why?
My man, Chris Rock. That's why. Right? Chris Rock. There's no money in the cure, bro.
So where is the health care for all individuals in America, for kids, not just moms and children, for the men that are trying to drive these households forward? Also, the mental status, psychological evaluations. These are the things that we're witnessing on social and in public, on mainstream television. We're seeing meltdowns. People are not as tough as they used to be. What do you want to say about
that? I work with all business owners, right? So as a business owner, you have a specific mindset. You're the leader of the pack, or everything stops with you. And every single one of you guys had a breakdown during this pandemic. And my job was not to break down. I couldn't. I had to be there to remind them how strong they were when they started. But I have my own breakdown, right? But I couldn't let anybody know, because if they're calling me for advice and strength and I'm weak and not giving it to them, then I'm not doing them a service. So I had to eat a lot of it. During the pandemic, my other businesses. So one of my businesses attracts a lot of other businesses as B2B. And we really saw what you just said. There is a real problem with lack of health, mental health, physical health. There really is. So we partnered up with a company called Advantage Health Plus. And right now, what we're going to launch in 3 weeks, I believe, where for $25 a month, everybody in your house, if you have 10 people in your house, if you have 2 people in your house, it don't matter. It's $25. Everybody in the house gets unlimited telemedicine calls with a doctor who can write a prescription to your pharmacy, which was key, right? Telemed's cool, but if you can't write me a prescription, what good are you? So it was key. And then we got them to throw in, shout out to Jelly Roll with that great song, Save Me.
Right.
That song, they heard that song and they were like, wow, you guys are really about it. We want to help. They now offer mental health for the same price. So for $25 a month, everybody in your house gets a 1-hour phone call with a therapist, because you got to talk.
See?
And in your case, Javon, it's you, your wife, and your son, Jordy. And it's $25. $25, and if you get a sinus infection, you don't have to go to the emergency room no more. You don't have to. You don't.
That's a headache going there.
Yeah, man. Did we shut it down? Hold on. Mighty good. Can you hear us? Oh yeah.
It's kind of going on and on.
All good.
Yeah, we good now. We're back.
Yeah, so it was just something we saw. For $25 a month, everyone has a physical therapist that they could talk to once a week, but unlimited calls to a doctor. It's important. We need this. Technology and the healthcare industry weren't ready for it, but the pandemic made it happen.
Hey,
Right?
maybe
The pandemic had some positive wins, right? StreamYard, hustling online,
right.
and now we got telemedicine. It wasn't even a thing back then.
Not at all.
And here we are. So there's some positives that came out of this. Not a lot, but there are some.
So listen, I think that, you hit some really valid points. I think the young people are really, it's a lot of people just,
Hey, I just want to say this. I'm gonna give you guys 100 memberships each that you guys can give out to friends and family for this healthcare stuff.
Man, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thank you, man.
See, listen, and this is what I'm talking about.
That's
That's why the early morning hustle is going to be valuable to the community, because we'll be able to get back and some of the new sponsors that'll be coming on, listening and talking to us about their products and things that's going on. It's a hustle out here, and people are trying to be able to survive. This was a survival mechanism, for not just myself, for T, for us to be able to come together. And it's all about unity at the end of the day. If we can't stick together, then what type of community are we trying to build? Like the economy right now, just like this, we're gonna go right into business. Like I've been telling you, he always gives me the facts that is the stock market doing well or what? Is the S&P doing good? Because they always talk about the economy being bad, right?
All right, so I'm gonna give you guys the lowdown. All right, so in 2016, corporate tax was 27 to 31%, right? So in math, we knew taxes were, let's just use 30%. So if you made $1, 30 cents went to Uncle Sam. The stock price said you made 70 cents in profit. And if you did that every year, you're 70 cents profit. That's pretty good. Trump cut the taxes on corporate earnings from 30 to 21. So they made an extra 9% just by a law change, not for better business, just by a law change. And then you have the pandemic hits, and we'll use Kanye West company as an example. Kanye West got a $5 million PPP loan 1 month after he announced he was a billionaire. Makes no sense to me. You're a billionaire, but you need to take taxpayer money. And all he had to do to not pay back the loan was to spend it on his staff. So back to that 30 cent, 70 cent thing. If a company is making 70 cents, the tax cut, now he's making 80%. He still has a cost of running business. He has rent, he has insurance, he has staff, he has bills, the expenditures of a business. The government said, don't worry, we'll pay that for you. Here, take this money, pay your staff. So they didn't even have to pay costs. So when he cut the tax from 30 to 20, and then the government comes in and pays the salaries of 75% of your workforce, you really just cut it to 15 and 20. So the stock price right now is not real. These are fake inflated numbers that shouldn't be this high. They should come down. I don't believe that the Fed is doing the right thing by raising interest rates so quickly, but I also have a feeling that prices of everything come down after today. I believe that the corporate America, which Donald Trump and the Republicans cater to, got a real good pandemic. They got it good. They didn't have to pay their bills. They got free money. Some companies were named essential workers. They didn't have it real hard as the rest of us. I'm going to shameless my neighbor, right? My neighbor who I fight with all the time because he's a MAGA nut.
Hey, you're terrible. Go ahead.
My neighbor who I fight with texts me, I bet you're okay with $10,000 student loan forgiveness. I was like, oh, you want to come at me like that? I check online. I see his truck in the driveway. I see the name of his company. Oh, you got a $33,000 PPP loan that was forgiven. You're okay with that? You got 3 college educations paid for, and you're complaining about one person. So this is a real problem. They took everything from the pandemic and complain when we just try to get even.
And you know, it's funny that you say about that. A lot of businesses like myself, we didn't even get funding, nor did we even get a
Yo,
lot.
I'm gonna say something that me and Flawless talk about all the time, just to be a conspiracy asshole right now.
Mhm.
So there's something that nobody talks about, and I know this, and Jay, you know this. Every people who got the $1,500 check, right? Everyone got a check. I'm gonna send you 1,500. You know who didn't get it? Anybody who owed child support.
I understand.
Ooh.
If you owed child support, you got nothing. The state pocketed it. It didn't go to baby mama and the kid. The state said, you owe the money, we're keeping it. Okay, so you took people's jobs away from them, then you don't give them no money, and you wonder why George Floyd paid with a fake 20?
Wow.
And look, and listen, not to mention, like,
I just want to focus on that for a second.
Right.
I don't know if it's true. I'm not trying to have to be held accountable.
Exactly.
I look at it all the way across the board. I think that doing tax breaks for the rich. They were taxed this year. We know when they were taxed, and then on top of it, those big corporate, those forgiveness with the airports and all that. Listen, they had so much money already. What about the little people? You know, if you even not even have enough, I can't even pay enough. I can pay enough, have payroll to pay enough employees so we can grow during the pandemic. And that was our issue, knowing that we had a lot of revolutionary moments doing award shows and doing some amazing things, news coverage and all of the things that the smaller guy was getting crushed. I mean, isn't our economy built on the small business?
We are a consumer-based economy, which is why I bug out all the time when people have a problem with us having money. I remember one of the stats that really pissed me off during the pandemic. It said, United States homes have the most money in the bank in 50 years. Like, why shouldn't we have money in our bank accounts? Why do we need to live paycheck to paycheck? And then you hear the corporations say, we can't find anybody to work because you're not paying enough. That's why.
Right. And it's really terrible. And it's like when you can't, and then you go to the bank and say, hey, look, they say, what's your credit score? And I'm looking at them like, what do you think? You can't pay anybody. You're the only one on the payroll. How are we going to make sure we grow, man? The economic development is turned upside down. And then you have people that say, hey, look, when you go to welfare or you go to some of these places and they look at you like you're nobody, and then you can't get a job and all of the things. That's where all the mental illness and all the stress of the everyday grind trying to make it.
A lot of that shame we put on ourselves. A lot of that is some shame we put on ourselves.
And it can get downright domestic at times when it gets to that point. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, money will do that. Money will definitely do that.
Not having money will destroy your household. And that shows over time that families need money to take care of their children, their responsibilities. Although people make the worst decisions with money when they do have it. But I just feel like that is a lot of the problem when it comes to not having a better community overall. It's like challenges come. People are making decisions, short-term decisions, but big-time decisions and hard decisions in short-term moments with the worst decision-making on emotional inconsistencies while the pandemic was happening, while they're about to be evicted from their homes, while they have to take care of their children. Prime example, I never did homeschooling my whole entire life until I dealt with COVID. The first time I had any argument over that situation with my child's mother is because I had to teach my son and sit there and wait for the Zoom conference to be over so he can handle his business. And I'm just like, look, I'm trying to run a business and trying to be able to make sure my son is sitting in front of a computer because nobody is taking care of their responsibilities with COVID. How am I supposed to deal with this?
It was unfortunate that it had to go this way, But think of the comparison. The last 100-year pandemic, these kids didn't even have that option, right? Imagine if we had to go through this pandemic without 5G cell phones.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
What would we have done?
Yo, this is the 90s. I don't know what, because cell phones wasn't lit. But I'm trying to tell you, thank God for technology, because Zoom was on point. But I don't know what type of bandwidth they had, but they was doing it. You know what I'm saying?
And Versus came in like a hot apple pie, saved everybody's life, right? Like Versus. Oh, thank you, Swiss, Tim.
Yo, man, listen, this has been an excellent show, man. I think that this is our second episode. If you want to support Early Morning Hustle, make sure you go at Early Morning Hustles on Instagram. You can go to IMU Network. It'll be on our site and our media site. You know, if you want to cover some, you know, if you want us to cover, talk about your stories. Hey, look, we do book reviews too. And listen, I'm not an amazing book reader, but I've been starting to read books the more and more. And I swear, there's some amazing content that's out here. Podcasts too. We take podcasts as well. We're creating, we're building. This is IMU Network. Rick, shout out to you for even coming on and give us the information.
Appreciate you guys.
Jersey J, we in the building. This is IMU Network.